Back to the Lipoedema podcast. We are your host, Shell.
And Tiana, and tonight we are joined by special guest and naturopath, Shelley Blake. Shelley, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We're going to get started straight away, Shelley. How did you come to learn of lipoedema and when was that?
Okay, well, I started to be a naturopath around 15, 16, 17 years ago, and it was very vaguely touched in the studies, but honestly, didn't take it in. I was learning so much stuff. Couldn't even tell you what anything it was. And I did Chelsea Jean's practitioner lymphatic training a few years ago, and it was touched on there as well. She does a lot of work with the lymphatic massage treatments there. And so that was quite interesting. Same thing, didn't know too much about it, but learnt a little bit more. And then talking to you, Shell, last year when you found out you were diagnosed, and I'm like, what is this? It sends you down a rabbit hole and starts looking into different things. So it's been interesting. So it's not really well known, even in the textbooks. Went to look in the textbooks. No real information there. So that's quite interesting.
That is really interesting, isn't it? And I guess that goes back to like Lipoedema Australia have all of this information on their website to take to your doctors, to take to your healthcare professionals. And the power of that, like, Shelley, you are here and you are educating us now on how to look after ourselves from a condition you didn't even know about. So
that's right.
The power of sharing this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I learn different things from all of my clients. And what I love about that is it makes me learn different things. It keeps it interesting and you help more people because there's a lot of health conditions that people just aren't aware of until you experience yourself and then you get awareness out there. So
yeah,
it's good.
Too true. And it's so interesting that you said when you studied naturopathy about 15 or so years ago that there was some information out there and that there's limited information in the textbooks. I would be fascinated to hear like what kind of information that is. Is it just that it's a connective tissue disorder and that's it? Or is it it's a lymphatic condition?
Yeah, well, even like I'd have to go back and look at my notes, but it's more just, a lymphatic connective tissue inflammatory condition and or a disorder of fat metabolism. And that's kind of like, put aside, nothing else there, come back,
Yeah, move on.
And move on, pretty much, move on. There's not enough information about it. There's all these other conditions that are more well known that we apparently needed to know more about. Well, we do, but it was interesting. So, yeah. There's more information
online. Yeah. So if someone was to come to you, now that you know of lipoedema and that you have, your experience with Shell as someone who is dealing with lipoedema, if someone else came to you for your services who had lipoedema, what would be your initial approach?
Well, initial approach is always just getting case history. The case history is the most important thing to get, and also talking to the person. Really important to let that person feel comfortable coming to see you and having a chat without judgment, without anything like that, and go, tell me your story. Tell me your health journey. What's your life been like up to this point? And then my intake form is at least 6 pages of going into health stuff. So I want to know about your gut health. I want to know what your stress levels are like. I want to know what detoxification mechanisms are going on. I want to know if there's inflammatory indicators, which generally you are. We do the physical component with lipedema. We know that we can look, feel, touch, asking questions around that. Stress, sleep, all of these things are affected by lipedema. So I definitely want to delve into a lot more information there. Family history, hormonal history, what's life like, and really kind of get that supportive practitioner therapeutic role going because people with lipedema, they need help. They need support, can't do it by themselves. Or if they are, they shouldn't. Need help. Yeah. So it really is about getting the health history and finding out where that person is at. Because not everybody has all of the underlying symptom picture. Okay, most people have the fat build-up, the pain, the tenderness, worse in the afternoon, things like that. But are there indicators in the gut? Is stress a factor? Maybe it's not. Maybe sleep's not affected. Great. Excellent. But you need to know. We need to find out where they're at. We're also looking not just at what the legs are doing, skin, arms, fatty tissues, doing connective tissue. We're looking at what's the nails look like, what's the tongue, eyes, all of these things give us different indicators of health within a person because we want to know where are they at in their health journey right now. And a big part of it is we want to do preventative medicine. So let's work out where they're at. And the whole idea of it, the whole underlying thing is we want to try and work on these mechanisms, improve them, and fix underlying health issues and prevent things getting worse. So there's a lot. There's a lot to talk about generally. There's a lot to ask. I struggle doing my initials in an hour sometimes because you can get chatty with people, and a lot of people have a long story, and it can be emotional, very emotional. So you've got to give people that space as well. So that initial kind of thing is like that. It's really gathering information and finding out what's going on, where that person's at. If they have any test results, I'll look at that. I, in my clinic, do live blood analysis as well, so I might take a sample of their blood, look at that underneath the microscope. So you can just tell us a few nutrient deficiencies like B12, folate. You can see if there's blood sticky inflammation, which generally you will see that. But you can see components of what the liver detox is doing too, especially in the absence of blood tests. So, yeah, we want to try and look for what's not functioning properly and go, where's our starting point? What are we doing first?
Yeah, I can imagine how difficult that would be in 1 hour initial consult for you, 6 pages and all of that background information. But it sounds like what you're really trying to do is get an overall picture of the person and the person's functionality. And I think that's what naturopathy, like what is set aside with naturopathy, because you're trying to build the whole person. We don't see that in the medical community. They're sort of like, what's the problem? Band-aid the problem. What's the problem? Band-aid the problem. But this is so much more involved. It would take some grit. Yeah, and it would take some grit from both sides. So from, someone like if I was to come to you, that's quite a lot of time and investment about going through my entire history and my lifestyle, and then a lot of grit from you to actually pull things out and ask those targeted questions.
And hold that space. Some people aren't comfortable talking about their health. Some people are not comfortable talking about body functions. That's normal household talk in my life. But it's for something, especially with lipedema, where it is quite emotional, it's difficult to talk about for some people. So quite often there's potentially been bullying, there's been different issues there, not knowing what's going on. So it's holding that space and unraveling.
Yeah,
like
that's lovely. Yeah, you are, aren't you? You are health detectives. I love that. Okay, so where you're trying to pull out the underlying issues. So how do you even, once you get all the history, what's next? How do you then unpick some of those things and really pull out what the underlying issues are?
Definitely is a big part of the health history is also looking at what people are eating, by the way. And one of the most important things I really look at is gut health. So digestive health plays even a big role in lipedema. You can get leaky gut type thing or epithelial dysfunction. And when that happens, it creates a lot more inflammation. And we know that inflammation is a big underpinning factor for lipedema. And leaky gut can also affect the lymphatic system, and leaking or hyperpermeability of the intestinal function and lymphatic system is a big factor with lipedema. So when we do work on the gut health and bring healing into that, we've got in our digestive system what we call the gastrointestinal lymphoid tissue. So even by working on bringing healing and closing like what we call the tight junctions in the digestive tract can actually bring healing to the lymphatic system as well. I also want to make sure that you've got to be absorbing your nutrients. So if you're eating inflammatory foods, it's going to worsen things. If you're eating, especially people with lipedema, by the way, when I was looking into some information regarding it, certain foods just affect you guys so much more than the average person. Hydrogenated fats will have a 10-fold increase in inflammation for people with lipedema compared to somebody that doesn't have lipedema. And I was like, oh, that's fascinating. So hydrogenated fats and things are found in your packaged and processed foods. Sour grilled things are also a problem. So you've really got to kind of go, you know what, we have to work on what you guys are eating, how that's affecting your health, because we can do all the supplements and the herbs and all the compression and this and that, but if you're still putting a lot of this stuff into your body that's having a negative effect, we want to put in some, things to stop doing that. to really kind of do the work around the food. So gut health would be what I'd be looking at. There's no point doing all this stuff if you're just still putting something bad in here and you're trying to do good over here. So it's unraveling a bit of that where people are eating, going, how can we make some changes there? Even if we're small and build on it, but make it effective.
Nice. I was going to ask you about your approach to changing, like dietary changes, especially in the lipedema community. We are quite sensitive to making changes or restricting or, calorie deficit. And I feel like there's a shift in it's not calorie deficit, but it's just nutrient dense food or whole food and real food. So as you said, the junk that we may consume has a compounding effect on people who suffer lipedema. So we sort of have to be a little bit more strict with those things, but it's a delicate conversation for a naturopath and someone dealing with lipedema to really look at those things and try and make some changes. What's your experience with people taking on those dietary changes? How do you approach that?
I would generally be getting a food diary. I want to see what people are eating and when, but it's not just food diary, it's food and symptom diary. I want to know how certain foods affect. And then I might look at making some swaps. Okay, well, if you're having this, why don't we just swap that for that? It's fairly similar. It tastes fairly similar. Can we just tweak that around? So I always start, some people are ready to go. A lot of people are not. In my experience, a lot of people are not. Sometimes I call it ebb and flow. And there's sometimes a year where you go, I can do this 100%. Other times, you know what? I just can't do this. So it's trying to find the little swaps to start off with, achievable. The whole idea is you've got to make it achievable. If we make it too hard, you fall off the wagon. It's really hard to get back on that wagon. So let's just not do everything 100% if we're starting from that. If we're not starting at someone that's already made a lot of dietary changes, do little bits. Do little bits. And that might be, right, just this week, can you just try and do this? One little change, but we're going to swap for this for that. So something, then we build on it. Once they've gotten that out of the way, we build on it. So you're building up the changes so they actually become a lifestyle swap, a lifestyle change. And then quite often when you start eating healthier, cleaner, has a knock-on effect. You start to feel better. You're more motivated. Energy can kick in a bit. Like somebody is in pain, they're inflamed, they've got no energy, been eating crap, so feel like crap. Food preparation can go out the window. Who can be bothered? So you make the little changes, make it a bit better, get somebody feeling a bit better, then they're more likely to make more changes again and make them stick to it. So it really is about that negotiation almost. Where can we start? What are you prepared to start with? What are you not going to get rid of at the moment? How can we tweak that around? Or, well, if you're really going to do that, you might just going to have to take this tablet to help break it down if need be. So
Gotcha. So that's when supplements come into it after you've sort of established what the foods are.
Yeah.
Great. So
I might often bring in gut healing work alongside making any changes. It's an underpinning factor with lipedema, so I'd probably start with that anyway while we're doing some other factors there. Yeah.
Right. So when you're talking about some gut healing supplements, are we talking about prebiotics, like probiotics? What are we talking about that can really support gut health?
So I like easily digestible foods. So if somebody has a long history of foods that aren't sitting well in their tummy, food intolerances, and you go, oh, every time I eat this, I feel like this, that needs to stop. That just makes sense, or at least swap out. People that eat gluten, every time I eat gluten, I feel like this. Okay, you at least need to go to gluten-free options. I'm not saying I love gluten-free, but it's better than the gluten if gluten is a problem. There are a lot of prebiotic foods that you can have. Some people have a problem with probiotic foods, I'd be looking at a lot of the anti-inflammatory type stuff. So possibly warming, easily digestible. So I'm not a big fan of the raw food, green smoothie type things for a lot of people with under-functioning digestive systems. I've seen it just throw a lot of people out. I've seen a lot of thyroid go out with that actually as well. So just a little add-on. But I want it digestible. I want it warm. So things like ginger. Ginger is really warming to the digestive system. It's also anti-inflammatory. Maybe teaching people to bring more herbs and spices in. They play a big role. They're very therapeutic, preparing them properly. I'm a big fan of doing swaps with veggies. If you're going to have sort of, even steak, I'll throw lots of veggies in it. Prebiotic foods, look, you can definitely use a lot of the like sauerkrauts, even rocket. They help to stimulate and prepare the body a little bit when it comes to digestion. Don't forget mindful eating, slowing it down. That's a hard one. What do people eat on the run?
Very hard, yes, absolutely.
Got to rest and digest.
We all have such busy lives, don't we?
We do. We do. Yeah. So like I said, some people are happy to make changes, some don't. You know, you want to try and eat a rainbow, get lots of colour. If somebody finds that too hard, I don't even focus too much on that. I'm like, okay, I won't even say don't have this one. What can we bring in that's good to replace it? So we're focusing on what they're bringing in, not what they're cutting out. Let's fill them up with the good stuff. They're not noticing there's no room for the bad stuff.
That's really powerful, actually. That what can I add in?
Especially with food and food intolerances, the devil's in the dose, really. So you may not get inflamed by having a little bit of something, but if you have a little bit often, or if you have a lot at one time, you might get inflamed by it. So it's kind of tricky. I feel like, specifically with food, the only real answer to get it straight is if you go on some sort of elimination protocol, and that just feels like a lot. Is there a different way to work? I mean, the food diary with your symptoms as well, that can tell you a little bit, but I don't know about this, the dosage of certain foods and how that affects you. How would you approach that?
Definitely, you've definitely got to tune in to how you feel when you eat, and most people don't. You need to kind of, like I said, keep your food diary and symptom diary. Have a meal and think, how do I feel after I've just eaten that meal? How do I feel half an hour after eating that meal? How am I feeling an hour after eating that meal? So you really do have to bring awareness around how you're feeling after you've had something to eat. Do I feel sleepy? I've just eaten this. Am I feeling bloated? Or, if we feel bloated pretty quick after eating food, it can be low hydrochloric acid. If we're feeling, yucky an hour or so, it might be low enzymes. And food intolerance is if you've got dysfunction in the digestive system or low acid, stomach acid, or low enzymes or leaky gut, you're going to have a heightened response to foods. So you quite often do the healing work, and there's a lot less intolerances. But you really do need to tune in to how you're feeling after you've eaten. Some foods are obvious, some are not. You can do testing. Testing can be quite expensive. And yes, you can do the elimination things as well. If somebody's not ready to do an elimination diet, I'm still going to aim to strip back the bad foods, try and make it a whole food diet and make changes there, get them feeling that little bit better so they're more willing and able to do that. I'm stressed, I'm feeling like crap, I've got no energy, I'm chasing after kids, I'm la, 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 la. The last thing I'm going to do is put them on a strict diet because they're not going to do it. And then they're going to be like, oh, do it, and then they don't do anything. They fall off everywhere. Or you might sort of say, you know what, just once a week, I want you to do this.
Right.
And I'm going to say probably 9 times out of 10, when I say people I want you to do once a week, if they say I can't do once a week, I'm like, right, once a fortnight, or we negotiate, once a month, I want you just to do this. I'm like, okay, I can do that. I come back, and they've done it nearly every day.
Mm-hmm.
Because I haven't put the pressure on them. It's like, oh, I did that, I've done that, rather than, oh, I haven't done that, So,
yeah. The thought of the pressure is worse than what it actually is. So if you give them the challenge, they'll want to over meet that challenge. So I think that's a really good trick.
It really is.
So overachievers.
I know what it's like. If you tell me a strict diet, am I going to go, no, I'm not ready for that. But if I've been there. I know what that's like. But yeah, I do like that challenge. And when I have to do my changes and it was that, I'm like, oh my God, I've done that. Ooh, tick. We're giving the checklist. Tick, tick. Have you done that?
Yes.
Yeah, I like it.
Very powerful. Me too. Oh, crossing off a list or ticking off bring it on.
But the whole last thing we want to do is make somebody feel worse about themselves if they haven't done something.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? There is nothing worse when you're already feeling bad. There's nothing worse than giving them all these things to do and they don't do it and they're like, oh, I can't even do that.
Yeah.
It's a really bad healing state, whereas you kind of go, okay, build them up, make it achievable. And it's like, oh, I did it. Oh, and look, I did that too. It's such a better headspace to be in.
Yeah, it feels lighter. It feels more successful. And you've already given us two really tangible tips. So like whole food, getting rid of the processed food, and also warming foods. So, the ginger, I would assume the turmeric, the cinnamon, like herbs and spices type stuff. So
they
those
have an
are
anti-inflammatory component too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good practical tip for our audience. Okay, so when we're talking about supplementation, is that how is that driven by you? And I assume you do a lot of tests in your initial consultations, so you'll see some outliers there. But what might be the ones that are the most common that you'd look out for as a standard?
I'd be looking at anti-inflammatories. I'd be looking at gut healers. They're key. You get those fundamental functions working more, it's going to have a flow-on effect to the lymph, to the fat breaking down. But, we want to get rid of this hyperpermeability or minimise it. So doing the healing work is important. Absolutely.
And so what are some examples of those gut healing supplements?
So depending on when he's at. So if there's constipation, I'm going to be getting those bowels moving as well, by the way. But we quite often use powders or capsules. Powders I find a bit better. But nutrients such as glutamine, love licorice and marshmallow, love zinc carnosine. And you do see a lot of even our gut healers, a lot of them do have the turmeric in there. So we have blends that we might have zinc in there. So licorice and marshmallow I just love.
Yeah, I've got this peppermint and licorice tea from T2. I think it's called Licorice Legs, and it's one of my absolute favorite teas because it's a peppermint tea, and I absolutely love it. And so, keen for that. And I haven't had it in so long, so I've got to whip it out again.
Oh, do it.
Yeah.
This is also really good for the adrenals. Yeah.
Right.
And it's antiviral. So it's working on mucous membranes. It's working on immune system. It's antiviral. It is helping with the adrenals, and stress is a component in lipedema in a lot of people's lives as well. So it's a bit of I shouldn't say favorite. I've got lots of herbs that are my favorite. I use licorice oil. Even the liquid herbal in powders. You've got your aloe veras. There's lots of different things. Certain probiotic strains, there's been a fair bit of research when it comes to gut healing. So honestly, in my clinic, I probably have half a dozen different gut healing powders. With a few different ingredients. So it really does come down to what's going with this person, which one am I going for?
Right, so it's not so much a trial and error, or it could be a little bit trial and error, but it's more targeted. So you would see what's going on with them and be able to point them in the right direction for the right one.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Beautiful. Very good. Yeah. All right, so gut health. I think you also mentioned lymphatic health and nutrient absorption. So when we're after we have gotten rid of the junk food, a hypothetical, what else would cause us to have issues with nutrient absorption?
So stress. So sympathetic nervous system switched on, can't rest and can't digest. We need to have our nervous system calming down in order to have our secretions. Okay, so when you're in a stress state, the sympathetic nervous system is on, those lions are chasing you, so the body's going to be sending the blood to the extremity so it can run away type thing. It's not going to leave it in the digestive system to try and break down food or bring the energy into there. It's going to switch off that bit of digestion. So what we call it rest and digest, because you need to try and stimulate those enzymes, things like that. The stress is a biggie when it starts full of compromising digestion. Not just that, we've got the inflammatory mediators that kick around in there too. And if you're not breaking down food, so hydrochloric acid, enzymes, you can't get the nutrients to where they will need to go. Which also, by the way, the nervous system and the digestive system, they directly have a link. They talk to each other. So you need to be getting your foods. They need breaking down. The nutrients need to go where they need to go. We need, even from proteins, need our tryptophan to make serotonin, our happy hormone, which makes melatonin, our sleep hormone. So they have a direct correlation. So stress is a big one that also affects digestion. And everybody has a bit of stress in their life. And stress can be important. I'm not saying it's not, but it's learning to, I need to eat now, and go, give myself permission. There's nothing else I need to do right now. I can have 10 minutes. I'm going to eat.
I am right in there at the moment.
Yeah.
That
and
is
so
me.
If you notice like stress was a really big factor in one of your clients, what is your approach to tackling that with them incrementally?
I do lots. I will do supplementation if I find it's bad enough, like it's really affecting them. I'm a big fan of essential oils. I'm a big fan of rescue remedy. I'm a big fan of affirmations. I love sound bowls. I'm trying to get people to find things that work. Yoga, meditation. Yoga Nidra is a really good one. So Yoga Nidra is a guided meditation. So stress can affect sleep. Sleep also falls into this. And 20 minutes of Yoga Nidra is equivalent to a 3-hour rest for your body. They call it yogic sleep, like yogi sleep. It's amazing. And you can download it for free on Insight Timer. It's an app. And you can listen to it for free. Just press play. Find a voice you like. So same thing. Stress is not, I mean, like I said, I will supplement if I need to. It's not just about that. It's about finding what works and finding your ritual and your routine. And if that's a bit of a struggle, I'll be like, well, put an affirmation next to the toilet. Everybody gets up and goes to the toilet. Put things on the outside of the shower. Put an essential oil spray where you're going to see it, whether it be near the toothbrush beside your bed. You know, try and make the little bits easier. Give yourself the little routine, the little rituals, and, and turn it into that.
Yeah, that's some good tips. There's so many things, because in my mind I'm thinking like that stress is such a strong correlation to sleep quality, and like it really affects each other. But when we're talking about like families or parents with young children, or the sleep, you can't get good quality sleep in those situations. So you sort of feel like you're set up to fail in those instances, and you're like, well, then my stress response is all out the window because I can't deal with my sleep. But you're actually saying that there's so many other things that we have control of that help our stress response, like affirmations and meditation and essential oils and mindful movement. And I think that's important for me and for our community to understand that we still have control over something.
Can I just say too, kids love the ritual routine of having their own essential oil roller or spray. You can put the diffuser on to calm them too. So if it's this whole family's too busy, well, you all have that little routine. Okay, we're going to get our happy spray or our sleep spray or our oil on here, or bring the family into it. Or we're all going to sit by the lounge and put our feet in some Epsom salts tonight. Make a family affair. Slow it down. Dim the lights. Change the light bulbs. Change the lighting. There's lots of little things that you can do even as a family. And, you've got your flower essences like Rescue Remedy Spray works great. And then you kind of go, well, okay, if it still feels too much and you think just didn't get to that, chucking no Yoga Nidra on, press play as you're going to sleep, because it doesn't matter if you fall asleep. Your subconscious brain still hears it. So it still has that effect. Yeah.
Yeah, I always think about that when I'm trying and not doing very well, but trying to do meditation. Actually, trying to get back into it now, because I recognize that just I'm not coping with all the things that are happening at the moment. So I'm like, maybe I should take some time to do some meditation. I'm not very good at it because I'm sitting there going, am I meditating? Am I doing this right? Am I relaxed? I'm pretty sure I'm relaxed. In the playback is like, and then you're going to breathe out and go deeper. And I'm like, did I go deeper? It's so funny, but I completely forgot my point. But when I'm trying, I think I'm also trying to try. And I think that's you're trying too hard, which is so silly.
Break it down. You can get 10-minute ones. You do better with a guided one, and Yoga Ninja is like, bring your attention to your right foot, your right knee, your whole right leg, so you're like, oh, so you're too busy thinking about what that's doing that you're not going, am I doing this? So do the guided ones. It took me 2 years to learn to meditate. I had overactive thyroid. I could not lay still. And I'm like going, I've got to move. I'm going to wake everybody. They all look relaxed. I've got to move. And then I just persevered. It's about perseverance. Just keep trying. And you don't have to do an hour. Everyone always thinks you've got to do an hour. No. You can actually meditate and go, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. Just 3 to 5 times. That's still going to put that in a meditative state. That breathing is still going to pull down that sympathetic response. So you can go to the toilet and go, I'm just going to take 3 deep breaths, breathe in, breathe out. So find the little bits, the little things, the little tiny bits where it's a minute here, a minute there, and you can build on them and stick the reminders around. Put reminders, I remember when I was studying, I had notes all over my shower. Actually, they were everywhere. My hubby learned a lot. It's funny. But yeah, find the little bits. You've got to find the little bits. Walk on the grass bare feet or just go, just feel it, even for a minute or 30 seconds. I had a client actually just last week. She goes, I just can't do it. I'm just not going to have the time. I said, okay, I just want to take your shoes off. I'll walk you out the gate. We walked across my grass. I said, look, you've just done that. She was like, oh, I did, didn't I? I've done that. I'm like, tick, done. Simple. Bring it down to little bits. They all have an effect. It's an accumulative.
But yeah, you're right. And even like taking those deep belly breaths, like just reminding yourself to do that, that just brings everything to the present. And I think that is so important in this fast-paced life to just, stop, breathe. We're all safe. We're not getting attacked by lions.
Those deep belly breaths, by the way, also help shift the lymph in the digestive system. So you're not just doing it to de-stress, you're also helping your lymph.
Yeah.
So win-win.
Yep.
Win-win.
Love that. Anything we can do to get this lymph moving, the better.
Absolutely. It's key. Absolutely.
Oh, Shelley, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We've had a few technical issues, but you were great. Your end's all great. It's just your hosts keep popping in and out. So thank you so much. So my takeaways as I was more an audience member tonight with my technology was start small. I love that. Like just try and do one thing. And that's something Tiana and I say often is if you can't do something consistently and it's going to add too much pressure to your family and to yourself, don't do it. Like just start small. And I love what can you add in? So we're not always feeling in a deficit like, oh, we're restricted. There's this deficit. What can we add in to help with our inflammation? Because like you said, once our inflammation starts to heal, we start absorbing nutrients. We start moving our lymph, and we just feel better. So we're going to do better. So yeah, I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
So Shelley, before I say goodbye, where can the Lipoedema community find you?
Well, I'm actually on the Gold Coast, so I do see people in person. I'm also have my website up and running. I'm on social media, and I'm actually also now running some workshops. They're in the pipeline and some retreats. So so I'm now collaborating with my yoga teacher. So we want to bring more education, but things around the movement, the healthy eating. I'll be doing some talks. There will be saunas and cold plunging because that's really good for lymphatics and detox, and I'm a big fan for that. My friends don't like me when I drag them to that, but that's okay. We keep doing these things. Yeah, so
it's not the most pleasant.
But you feel amazing
I am
afterwards.
out and about in a few different places. So, but I do. First time I did it, I was like, oh my God, what am I doing? And I finished and went, my cells are dancing. I'm alive. I really could feel my cells vibrating. And I was like, wow, I need to do this
powerful.
more.
Yeah,
it was really powerful.
Well, I'll put all of your information in the show notes so that our community can find you. And thank you so much for joining us this evening, Shelley.
Thank you. Shelley. It's been lovely to see you guys.
You too. Bye.
Bye for now.
When we started the Lipoedema podcast, we relied on word of mouth and existing connections.
Our following has happened organically, and we are so honoured by your support.
As we learn more about the world of social media and algorithms, we have a request.
When you are listening to our podcast or watching on YouTube, let us know what you think.
Hit follow or subscribe.
Leave us a comment or write a review.
The more engagement we get, the more our message is shared.
And the greater our reach to those women suffering in silence.
Thank you for listening to the Lipoedema podcast. Lipoedema and its symptoms vary from individual to individual. The opinions and advice voiced in this podcast are of a personal nature and used for educational purposes.
Please take away from this podcast what resonates with you, and please see your GP or preferred specialist for diagnosis and healthcare. We are Shelley and Tiana from the Lipoedema podcast. Until our next episode, bye for now.